You're good.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our October 14th Beauregard meeting. So we will call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. You give us the roll and the mission, please.
Roll of the board. We are entrusted to care for the current school and stay focused on the vision for the future school. No trust, no unity, no progress. The mission of Clever Garden School will foster community, generate enthusiasm, challenge students academically, and produce successful citizens.
Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is to review the agenda. I know everyone has had a chance to review that in our drive. I don't think there's any changes to our agenda tonight. So with that being said, we would like to make a motion to approve today's report. Elon, second. Joel, all in favor? Agenda has been approved through tonight. Also, your minutes for September 9th. Also in your drive, it's been there for a little while for you to review. So anybody have any comments, changes, some feedback on September's minutes? Hearing none, we would like to make a motion to approve September minutes. Watson, second, Mr. Young, all in favor? So September minutes have been approved. So next on our agenda is public comments. Hearing from our stakeholders, and I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I'm gonna just read a general statement for public comment before we get started. And we have allotted 30 minutes, just to see how many comments that we have. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come before us. We value your feedback and contribution to our school and community. We recognize that this process is a bit awkward and that we are not able to engage in a dialogue or come to any decisions today related to any public comments. The purpose is for you to be able to express your thoughts, and we take our duty to listen seriously. All public comments will be taken under advisement by the board, but may not produce a written or spoken response. We ask that all public comment provide just the facts and should not include personal information of students or personnel in order to maintain confidentiality. We ask speakers to avoid using names of students or staff or maintain confidentiality and privacy standards. All comments to be thoughtful and respectful. No raised voices or inappropriate language will be permitted. Be mindful that what you say here is public, and the names of persons providing public comment and a brief summary of topics or input will be included in the meeting minutes published. We will allocate time by issue, no more than 3 minutes per person, so you will be timed by our timekeeper, but which not may be given to another person. No additional time given to another person. We take all your public comments seriously. The board will discuss, and if there is any action that needs to be taken, it will be reflected in the minutes and communicated to you by the director. With that being said, we'll start announcing the speakers if they are present.
I have the list of everyone that wanted to speak. Is Giselle Lowler present? All right, Joshua Isley. Okay. Caitlin Albright. Present. Come on up, ma'am. Once you get to the podium, your 3 minutes will start.
Will they read the comments of those others?
We will not say the written comments. Our board has already reviewed the comments, and we will meet accordingly. We want to allow the folks that gave the comments to allow them to speak to us in person.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Albright, and I'm here tonight as a parent and a follower of Christ. I speak about truth, respect, and the rights of our children to live according to their faith. Recently, I received a response from school administration stating that students who do not address teachers by their name or title that the teacher chooses will be disciplined for insubordination. And that this issue does not fall under religious rights. With all due respect, That statement is not only incorrect under the First Amendment and Senate Bill 49, but it also disregards the deeply held religious convictions many families in this community hold. For Christians, speaking truth is not optional, it's a command. Ephesians 4:25 says, therefore, each of you must put off falsehoods and speak truthfully to your neighbor. For we are not only members of one body. Proverbs 12:22 says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. Our children are taught to tell the truth in love, to treat others kindly and to stand firm in what is right. But they should not be punished for living those same values in school. The Bible also teaches that God himself created humanity in his image, male and female. Genesis 1:27, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Mark 10:6 reaffirms this, but from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For those of us who believe God's word, this truth is sacred and a gift. To affirm otherwise would be to deny what God has clearly spoken. When a school demands that a child uses words that contradict their faith, it becomes compelled speech. Something the courts have already said violates constitutional rights, as seen in Merriweather versus Hartop in 2021. The government cannot force anyone to say something that goes against their deeply held religious beliefs. Labeling a student as insubordinate for respectfully following their conscience is not about discipline. It's about discrimination. No student should be forced to choose between their education and their faith. I'm asking this board to review and clarify policy to ensure that no student is ever penalized, disciplined, or made feel lesser of for living out their faith respectfully. I want to work together, not against our schools, to make sure we protect the rights of all people while honoring both the law and the families who entrust their children here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bryant Hodges. Laura Bradford.
Good night. Tiger?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. I would like to take this opportunity to address ongoing concerns regarding the treatment of teachers at Clover Garden School and the direct impact these issues have on our students' well-being and academic success. As some of you may know, I have resigned from my teaching position in September. This decision was not made lightly. The primary reason for my departure was the increasing number of unrealistic expectations placed on me, expectations that became unsustainable and were not aligned with professional standards or legal guidelines. In my exit interview, I specifically mentioned being assigned to lead an intervention group during my planning lunch period. As outlined in House Bill 5630, all teachers are entitled to a 30-minute duty-free lunch. When I raised this concern with administration, I was informed that that time could simply be taken from my planning period instead. I was also told that I needed to step up and help. Throughout my tenure at Clover Garden, I have consistently stepped up. I have volunteered my time and my energy to enhance the school's experience for students. I founded the Middle School Student Council, which provided leadership opportunities for our students and organized numerous school-wide events, including homecoming dances, family game nights, and sports tournaments. Despite this, I was made to feel that my efforts were not sufficient, which is deeply discouraging. In accordance to the Parents' Bill of Rights, particularly Section E, schools are expected to support parents in strengthening their child's academic progress, particularly in reading, enhancing their child's citizenship and social skills, including respect for others. During my meeting with administration, I presented viable solutions to help meet these goals. Specifically, I suggested leveraging the existing 7:45 to 8:10 a.m. intervention block more effectively to provide targeted support for Tier 2 students instead of infringing on lunch periods. I offered to take additional responsibilities during this time to support a colleague in running these small group instructions. I also proposed organizing my own intervention group. Unfortunately, none of these proposals were accepted. It is vital to recognize that lunchtime is the only unstructured time during the school day when students can practice essential social skills. Taking that away, especially for Tier 2 students who already struggle with social emotional development, is counterproductive to the very goals outlined in state legislation. Furthermore, I recommend engaging parent volunteers, particularly those already present for daily pickups, to assist with small group support access across the grade levels. This suggestion was also not acted upon. Just before fall break, middle school teachers were informed that they would no longer be allowed duty-free lunches and would be required to supervise lunch and conduct tier 2 interventions. This decision, if maintained, will only accelerate teacher burnout, which is already at a very critical level. Our middle school team has voiced these and other concerns to administration repeatedly. One ongoing issue is the lack of preparation and support when new students are added mid-year, often with minimal notice. It is not uncommon to receive an email just minutes before the start of the day informing us that a new student who then arrives without a Chromebook, without significant disruptions, it will create significant disruptions. And the lack of planning causes that undermines effective instruction. I raised this concern last year, but no improvements were made.
Thank you. Mandy Patterson.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mandy Patterson, and I'm here as a concerned parent, not only for my children, but for every student and teacher in our school who deserves respect and accountability from their school leadership. Since 2023, we've seen 27 teachers leave for various reasons, many of whom were talented, dedicated, and deeply connected to our students. Is there a common denominator as to why these teachers are leaving? When we asked about the reasons behind these departures, we learned that teacher exit interviews were being conducted, but those findings weren't always shared with the board. If good teachers are leaving, we need to know why, and we need to address it honestly. Respectful dialogue should be the foundation of any school community. We were dismissed simply for asking respectful questions, not with hostility, not with an agenda, but with a sincere desire to understand the school's policies. So it was shocking when, after respectfully asking questions about pronoun usage policies, we were told, and I quote, "If you are not satisfied, you are welcome to enroll your children in another school." Being told we could leave the school by administration felt uncalled for and contrary to the principles of transparency and collaboration that a school community should be built on. Regarding the curriculum, there is a noticeable inconsistency between grade levels and how pronouns are taught. It is essential that the school adhere closely to the North Carolina state standards to ensure a consistent, developmentally appropriate curriculum across all grades. Deviating from these standards, particularly by teaching concepts like pronoun usage in ways that may not align with the established guidelines, risk undermining our students' foundational reading skills. This is especially concerning given that our reading EOG scores are currently rated a D on the North Carolina State Report Card. We strongly believe that these curriculum changes should not move forward, as they hinder the progress our students need to succeed in essential reading assessment. We've also noticed a significant change in the school's belief statement, not just in wording, but in values. The original emphasized faith, family, and character, grounding academics in integrity and unconditional love, but removing references to God, family, and faith. By removing references to God, family, and faith, the new statement distances the school from the moral and community-oriented roots that once made it distinctive. These changes have left our family feeling that like the heart and soul of the school's mission has been compromised. So I ask the board, review and discuss teacher exit interview data from the past 2 years and commit to transparency about what's driving staff turnover. Assess the balance of authority between administration, staff, and families, and take steps to ensure all voices are respected, not dismissed. Ensure full alignment with North Carolina state standards in curriculum, content, particularly in areas that affect foundational skills like reading. Our children and our teachers deserve a school that listens, adapts, and stays grounded in respect for all voices. Thank you. And I have documentation to hand out, if you said we can hand it out. Is that good?
Sure.
Only have to- That's not, oh, I have a chance, right now. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Patterson.
Good evening. My name is Justin Patterson. I'm here tonight. I'm a concerned parent of an 8th, 4th, and 2nd grader. I just would like to ask for clarity to accountability and consistency in what is being taught in the classroom and how our children could potentially be disciplined when they speak respectfully and act in good faith. In September, there was an incident in my daughter's ELA class where some questionable pronouns were used. And it was an example that was put up by a teacher. And when she was it was pointed out to her by a couple of students that that was incorrect, which is something that they've been taught their entire lives. They were assured that no, that is correct, and pretty much told to move on. Nothing else was said. Up until 8th grade, we've taught our kids she and he is singular, they is plural. And now they're being taught something different. I would ask, when was there a change in the traditional curriculum? The parents deserve to know if that has happened. And the board has a duty to ensure that changes are transparent, age appropriate, and grounded in educational standards. So I'd ask directly, did the board approve the deviation from the state approved English curriculum to allow teaching of, and I quote, English as used in society? More specifically, was there oversight in incorporating the use of they as a singular pronoun into classroom instruction? Secondly, I'm concerned with the response that we received from administration when we emailed about the situation. We've taught all 3 of our children their entire lives to be polite and respectful using Mr. and Mrs., yes ma'am, and no ma'am. Since the class was instructed to refer to their teacher by only her last name starting at the beginning of the year, it's understandably been a challenging habit to adopt. When we expressed this in our email, we were told that our child could be disciplined if not referring to the teacher in that way. We find it unreasonable to expect students to unlearn, in this case, 13 years of using respectful titles, only to set that practice aside for a single class each day. We're not trying to dictate anyone's name or pronouns, as we've been accused of in our emails from admin. Our concern is with the inconsistencies between classrooms when it comes to how teachers are addressed. We're simply asking that our children be given grace when they use respectful titles that they've grown up learning. Respect is a two-way street. A student who is courteous, using standard, respectful language should not face disciplinary action for an unintended error in address. What message are we sending when we punish students for being courteous? Finally, if this reflects a school-wide policy, I would ask the board, what's to prevent the same confusion, overcorrection, and punishment from being pushed onto elementary students who are still learning how to navigate social norms and communication? So again, I would ask, was this curriculum change approved by the board? Are the changes clearly defined and communicated to families? And how are we ensuring that this is going to remain fair, consistent, and development being appropriate? Thank you.
Kyle Crawford.
Good evening, Kyle Crawford. I'm a 7th and a 5th grader here. Today, I'll be using words provided to me by the director in written communication. First, she wrote on standards. We teach our students not just traditional English, but also the use of English in our society. There is no such standard of English in our society in North Carolina. The North Carolina Standard L.8.1 requires command of conventions of the standard English grammar and usage. Our website, CGS, says we adhere to the North Carolina State Standard. I looked through board records. I did not see a board vote that approved any such deviations. So my question is the director making decisions without the board's approval? Are we making changes to coursework in K through 1st grade where pronouns are originally introduced? And then I also asked clarity to our director. I said, could you please provide a specific example of how teaching they, them pronouns as a singular reference contributes to a positive educational outcome? No response was provided. None. I didn't get one. Teaching singular they, them pronouns is grammatically correct, deviates from our standard. I would say it's gender ideology, potentially indoctrination. I called and I spoke with our senator's office, Senator Amy Gailey, who's in full support of our efforts. She has sponsored a bill, Senate Bill 227, that'll be read October 20th, eliminating all DEI from K through 12 public education and removing divisive concepts from our educational system. The teaching of pronouns outside the North Carolina standard is not educationally necessary. Secondly, on punishment, The director wrote to me in writing, employees are entitled to be referred to by the name and pronoun of their choice. I understand respect is vital, but that doesn't mean compelling speech. There's a couple, Senate cases on this, so the Supreme Court cases, so West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett and Meriwether versus Hartsock both ruled that pronoun mandates can infringe on free speech by compelling ideological conformity. In addition, the state of North Carolina for driver's license only references binary male, female. There are no other pronouns that you can reference on your driver's license. I proposed a solution and I was told, well, if you're not happy, your kids can leave. So lastly, it goes to leadership. I asked these questions in dialogue. I asked to meet in person. I asked for a phone call. It was only through email, even attempts were made in person. But I was advised, I have been advised not to continue engaging with you. If you are not satisfied, you're welcome to enroll your children in another school. I asked for an in-person meeting. I left a call. I was denied. This flips concerned parents like myself, all these concerned parents, the absolute bird. So just to tell us to like go on and leave in an email. So is this the leadership we need at Clover Garden at the highest level? Or is this the message we send our students? If you dissent, exit, get out of here. Is this why we are losing good teachers? Lots of good teachers at CGS because they're not conforming. Is this why we're losing good families? I know our charter is up for renewal.
3 minutes.
I appreciate your review.
Yeah, I know.
Turn it out backwards, so give a reason. Thank you.
Casey Crawford.
Good evening, CGS board members. My name is Casey Crawford and my husband Kyle and I have a 7th grader and a 5th grader at CGS. I would like to start by saying I'm here because I would like answers in my questions, none of which we got through an email correspondence with our director. My husband and I contacted the administrative team, K-8, not high school, regarding a situation where we were made aware of from other parents who have students in the 8th grade language arts class. Why does this affect you, you may ask? Well, my child will be in that teacher's class next year, and when I hear of something that is not done correctly, I like to find a way to make it right. Students were introduced to using the pronoun they as a singular pronoun, referring to this teacher. I will change the name out of respect for the teacher. The sentence the students were asked to copy was Crawford wishes they could teleport across the classroom. The teacher corrected the students when the students stated the sentence was incorrect due to the use of a plural noun and a singular subject. However, this teacher took the opportunity to tell them that they referred to me or her. A door opened and conversations began happening at school and home that are not appropriate for 13-year-old children. The students were writing sentences using the prefix tellies. I would like to know why this teacher thought it was appropriate to bring preferred pronouns into the education and conversation of our children. Others may see this as harmless. It's not. This is exactly how pushing agenda and political indoctrination begins in schools and classrooms. The teacher caused confusion and brought political ideology into a classroom where it doesn't belong. The teacher could have chosen to use any correct gender specific pronoun, yet she didn't. Was there motive? Perhaps. When do we begin confusing our students and begin teaching they as a plural and as a singular pronoun? If that is being done, when does it start being taught that way? Has this deviation been approved by the board as part of the CGS curriculum? Are we willing to allow our test scores to continue to decline and teach away from the North Carolina standards? All my husband and I asked for from the director was her facts. We asked her what standards this would fall under. We asked her what policy CGS has where teaching preferred pronouns is in a classroom acceptable. We received no facts, only vague emotion-filled responses with no clear resolutions or answers on how to proceed forward. Really, the only answers we received were that our children could be disciplined if correct pronouns were not used, and most hurtful of all, you can enroll your kids somewhere else if you're not satisfied. As the head of our school, is this the type of leadership that has become acceptable? One that doesn't value evidence and resolution, one when things get hard in the conversation and the option is to be quiet or get out? I definitely don't think that's the standard that CGS holds, at least I hope not. We would like answers and still request a resolution to this matter. Furthermore, I do not think pushing involved students and involved families out is the resolution, especially when the Clover Garden High School is under enrolled. I have printed out documents for you to review as an example of how pronouns are being taught correctly in 7th grade in my daughter's classroom. And I have the 8th grade standard course of study, along with the copy of what the sentence the teacher used in the classroom. I didn't say what I ran out.
Thank you. Stacy Embry. Brandon Vincent.
Good evening, board members. These are our third year at Clover Garden with a figure. We along with many other families with kids Clover Garden. Primary reason we chose to do it was because of the stated commitment to investments. The experience thus far has been pretty good. We recently heard the teacher blatantly deliberately teaching the incorrect usage English language in honors English class. English honors no less. This is unacceptable. Stop for a second, take note of what we're talking. And the teacher taught kids in honors English class, just use pronouns to fit your gender. This is insane. Every teacher, administrator, and board member can be taken back from this. Every one of us learned basic English and have known how to properly use pronouns since we were children. Correct usage of pronouns in the English language has not changed in generations. So why was this done? She could have chosen 1,000 other examples that would not create a conflict between her beliefs and the correct teaching of English. The only reason this nonsense is being checked in the classroom was a deliberate effort to push some gender ideology. She chose to intentionally create this scenario to push kids to write down her idea of gender as quote unquote correct. No one cares what the teacher does in her time off. No one cares if she thinks she preferred to do his day, so long as she keeps that teaching in the classroom. Jobs to teach English is not to teach abstract gender studies. This nonsense needs to stop again. Consider this: a 2nd grader would be marked incorrect using the sentence that 8th grade honors class. Teacher cannot teach correct English because it's a conflict with her idea of what gender is, and she should not be teaching Clover Garden. Did the board approve the teaching, different version of English being taught? Who here is okay with this? Even more appalling than what was being taught was the parent response from the administration when the issue was brought up. To tell a student that she will be disciplined for using the correct pronoun in the sentence is absolutely unacceptable. We hope we could be immune from this sort of nonsense by choosing Clover, but unfortunately it seems to have affected schools all across the country, and Clover is not immune. I ask that the incorrect teaching of English stops immediately. Clover returns to focus its attention on pursuing academic excellence. Thank you.
Christine Frenzel.
I've sent in mine.
We have it. Thank you. Lindsay Cheney.
You're allowed to say.
You're allowed to speak. You have your 3 minutes, or you can.
I'll just say them.
Okay.
My name is Christine Frenzel. I have 4 children, 3 that currently go to Clover Garden, 1 that left to go to BCA. I'll take this moment to actually just speak about something maybe a little bit different in support of the improper use of pronouns. We can't do that. That's not even English, okay? I took one of my kids out. I would like for all my kids to stay here, but I will pull my kids out if we can't teach proper English. We can't prepare them for standardized tests by teaching them that they should be in place of she. It doesn't matter what a teacher wants to refer to themselves as. That's fine if they do it outside of the school, but inside the school, they need to teach proper English. You're gonna have a lot of parents pull their kids out if this persists. It's not the way you wanna run your school. I'm a veterinarian. I went to school for a really long time. If my kids come out of the school thinking that you can use they for she, I'm done. And a lot of other parents will too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Lindsay Cheney. Josh, or John McIntosh, sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is John McIntosh. I have two daughters that attend this school. My role in my career is in law. In that role, I teach quite often, mostly in constitutional law with some other things. One of the things that struck me about this whole situation as I was pondering over it was some of the verbiage utilized in the email correspondence between the director and the parent. Any student who does not address this teacher in accordance with their preferred name will be disciplined. I'm familiar in my role with the compelled speech doctrine. In that, there are things that some other folks here referenced called case law. Laws generally at the federal, state, and local levels are broad in nature. Case law takes those laws, which are broad, and gives us, law enforcement and other folks that deal with the law on a daily basis, guidelines of which to interpret. In a sense, case law gives the ultimate ruling as to how these laws are to be applied in specific instances. The compelled speech doctrine essentially is a defining doctrine for the First Amendment. The case laws that I was able to find, Parents Defending Education versus Windmore Community School District, Cluj versus Brownburg Community School Corporation, and several others, all dealt with either a teacher being compelled to utilize general pronoun or the vice versa. The student was compelled. All of which have been standing in the 6th, 7th, 2nd Circuit courts at the federal level to not be okay. That is the law of the land. That is what I have to enforce in my role as a law enforcement officer. And as best I know, Clover Garden receives Title IX funds and is a government actor because of the state, local, and federal funding of which the school receives. And so from that matter, being a government actor, you are compelled to act under this case law that I'm referencing. The second thing that stood out to me in the email from Ms. Bragan is that after consulting with the school's legal counsel, and a few questions popped into my head, because I've heard that quite a few times in my career. What did that entail? I think the board should figure that out if you don't know already. Because one of two things are true. Either the legal counsel is saying there's case law defining this, and we need to tread carefully, or the vice versa.
3 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Bradford.
Starting Ms. Gould. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to take a moment to highlight an essential responsibility that Clover Garden holds, supporting both our teachers and our students by ensuring access to a comprehensive state-approved curriculum in all subject areas, not just English, language arts, and math. Our educators are dedicated professionals, but their success and the success of our students hinges on the tools we provide. A robust curriculum aligned with state standards is not optional. It is foundational. It ensures that all students, regardless of grade or subject, receive consistent, high-quality instruction that prepares them for academic growth and future success. This includes writing standards like W.8.1, which calls for formal English, clear style, and a deep understanding of task, purpose, and audience. Our students must be taught to write objectively, free of bias, and with proper grammar and structure, not just in ELA, but across science, social studies, and the arts. Teachers cannot and should not be expected to build these materials from scratch. It is the school's responsibility to provide curriculum that meets state standards, fully developed, accessible, and ready to implement. This support not only ensures equity for all students, but also respects the time and expertise of our educators. Clover Garden must commit to academic excellence across the boards. That begins with giving our teachers the resources they need and giving our students the education they deserve in every subject, every classroom, every day. If we don't act, there will be repercussions. You've seen this from parents already pulling their children. I can tell you as fact as my wife had we heard from previously, as soon as she put her resignation in, we had kids that used to attend her come and say, "Where are you going so I can go with you?" It's also cost over $30,000 in donations that I have turned away from people that had said, "If you're a part of that school, I'd like to be a part of." We're in a time of need where students need help. Schools need funding. But because we don't want to listen to the people that make us like any corporate America company, eventually, just like any company that doesn't do well, it'll bottom out. Kids will go somewhere else. And that the pride that I wish we had at Clover Garden will be at somewhere else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lindsay Gilly.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Gilly, and I have been affiliated with Clover Garden probably longer than anyone in this building. I've been here since it opened in 2001. This main hallway and that gym was all that was here. I've painted, I've cleaned, done it all. I've also been a part of this school as a classroom parent, a coach, a constant volunteer, and if the gym has an athletic event going on, you will see me in there. I know this school from its opening. In addition to that, and being involved with this school, this is my community. I was raised here, attended school at AO, Western Middle, Western High, and then bought a house a quarter of a mile from my home place. I come to you today to gain a better understanding of why the standard of learning voted on and passed by North Carolina legislators and our board is not being followed. It is my understanding the 9th grade ELA class uses they, them, and it is or was being used as a singular and or plural pronoun. This is not only incorrect grammatically, but it does go against the standard of learning for the state. I understand that societal English has its place, but when you're teaching it in an actual middle school ELA class, an honors class at that is tested by the state on standards that the state created and that they have voted on and approved, societal English is not recognized, nor should it be taught. Using y'all or ain't on an essay should be counted incorrectly. Why is this any different? Religious beliefs, personal beliefs, gender discussions, and sexual preferences do not have a place in public school and should be checked at the door. I'm not bringing my child to Clover Garden for her to get a better knowledge of the Bible. That is my job as her parent. Just as the same, this is not their job. It should just be education. I was taught to always do the right thing. I thought that I was doing the right thing by her academic career and bringing her to learn at a school that teaches a grade or two above what the other public schools in the area teach. For parents to be told that they can choose other educational opportunities if they're not happy seems quite the issue when we are already down in our total number of students and our state funding is based off of that number. For a school that is already struggling, should this be what we are presenting as a united front? I leave you with this quote from Alexander Hamilton: "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself within." I'm afraid that with all that's going on with our little rural school, we are working against each other and trying to destroy what has historically been a great school. Thank you for this time. Thank you for following the standards and procedures that you voted on and allowing me to speak today.
Jessica Taylor.
Members of the board, thank you for giving me the time to speak to you. I would like to state that I realize by being here tonight, I am enlarging the target that was on my back and putting my head on the chopping block, so to speak. However, I feel it is important that the board knows and understands everything that is going on with our schools so that we can make it the best school possible. I feel it is important to state that not only am I a staff member, but a parent as well. I have a vested interest in this school because the success of this school directly impacts the success of my children. We lost 15.2% of our staff at the end of last school year, the majority of which was due to working conditions. So far this year, we have already lost 3% of our staff due to working conditions. This school was once a sought after place for teachers. We had the best of the best, and now we're losing them one at a time. A huge problem that we have is class sizes. Middle school classes are sitting right at 30, if not more than 30 students per class. That is not what is in the best interest of our students. Students simply cannot get the services that they need and the attention that they deserve when there are that many students in a room with one teacher. North Carolina General Statute 115C-301 regulates classroom sizes, and teacher allotments are based on those sizes. According to the nation's report card directory information for Clover Garden School for the 2023-2024 school year, our enrollment numbers were right in line with the numbers in that statute. This is also the year of our school expansion, and our numbers increased exponentially after that. Teachers are stretched to the max. We don't have sufficient resources for the students that are coming in. Many of our teachers don't even have a curriculum. They are left to develop their own on their own time and at their own expense, or purchase it at their own expense. This simply does not make any sense. With our class numbers increasing the way they are, our allotment should be increasing as well. We have no more teachers this year in middle school than we had last year. So why do we not have the money for resources? In addition, allotments are based on the number of general education students, advanced students, and exceptional children's program students that are enrolled. Sixth grade alone has been inundated with EC students. It has been stated by certain members of our administration that we are now at a 1-to-3 ratio of EC students to general education students. If more money is allotted for those students, again, where is that money going? Why can't we get the resources that we need in the classroom? Why do we have a class that is nearly 50% EC, but does not have an assistant or a full-time EC teacher traveling with them? In addition to lack of resources and oversized classes, teachers are now being asked to give up any possibility of duty-free lunch, according to an October 2nd email from administration. Teachers are also being required to teach during their lunch or their planning time. Both of these requirements are a violation of North Carolina General Statute 115C-301.1. The General Assembly provides funds to allow for duty-free instructional planning time. And effective for the 2025-2026 school year, House Bill 986 provides for a required 30-minute duty-free lunch on a daily basis. Planning time and lunchtime should not be taken for teaching. Furthermore, middle school team had a schedule created at the beginning of the year that allowed for each teacher to have 3 days of duty-free lunch a week. That doesn't even follow the general statute, but it gives teachers time to of reprieve that they could have a moment to themselves, make copies, call parents, or just go to the bathroom. We received emails almost weekly that we were getting new students with very little time to prepare for those students. Those students were coming in without computers and all of the necessary supplies needed to be successful in the classroom. Understandably, we were trying to do something. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Johnson.
Good evening, members of the board, administration, and fellow colleagues. My name is Christine Johnson, and I have been a proud member of Clover Garden teaching staff since July 2017. Over these years, I've witnessed many changes, some positive and unfortunately some concerning. One of the most significant challenges we continue to face, is teacher turnover, which seems to increase with each passing year. When I first joined Clover Garden, one of the qualities that drew me here was a strong sense of teacher support and community. The support system was exceptional. At every turn, there was someone ready to assist, collaborate, or simply listen. The staff truly felt like a family. Teachers were involved in student activities, athletic events, and school functions. You could attend any event and see the majority of our staff there, cheering on our students. Sadly, that sense of togetherness has diminished over time. It is now rare to see the same level of involvement outside of school hours. These changes have not occurred in isolation. They are being felt throughout our classrooms and school community. I fully recognize that Clover Garden is both a school and a business. However, it often feels as though the balance has shifted too far towards the business side, at the expense of the community and culture that once defined us. Our teachers and staff and administration are stretched incredibly thin. I see it every day. My classroom is located near the commons area close to the administration offices, and there have been multiple occasions when I needed assistance and no one was available. Not because of unwillingness, but because everyone was simply overextended. This is not a criticism by any means, but rather an observation of how strained our resources and personnel have become. My purpose in speaking today is to advocate for teacher retention. I believe that retaining strong, experienced teachers should be our top priority. It can be discouraging when capable and dedicated teachers continue to encounter unnecessary obstacles or feel unsupported, which ultimately impacts morale and student success. I am deeply committed to Clover Garden and to help restoring the supportive, collaborative culture that once made our school a place where both teachers and students thrive. Increasing class sizes to 30 students per classroom, however, moves us in the wrong direction, especially in middle school where students need individualized attention and strong relationships to prepare for high school. It is very disheartening to see students transfer to other schools after years of hard work and connection here. When that happens, it feels as though our collective efforts are benefiting other schools instead of our own. Clover Garden has always been a special place to me, a school that families sought out because of our sense of community care and excellence. My hope is that we can refocus on what made Clover Garden so special in the first place and rebuild that supportive environment for both teachers and students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Howell.
Why did I come prepared to speak? He sent my comments in. I'm not a public speaker. I don't have a list of laws. I don't have a list of bullet points. But I do have a lot of heartfelt thoughts and concerns that everybody needs, I think a lot of us share. I'm really concerned, my whole family. I have 2 kids here, one in middle school, and one in high school currently. Very, very concerned at the quality of the teachers that's leaving and the quality of the teachers that's coming in. I understand that being a teacher is underpaid, overworked. Always has been, always will be. So if you have a passionate teacher that's there for your children, you need to do what you can to keep those teachers. I have concerns with Canvas. It has always been a concern. My family, my children, my husband, and the teachers don't understand it. We don't know what to think. We will look at the grades and they may have an F, then A, then F, then a B, then an A in 30 minutes. We are very family focused and we are strong on our children. And we don't know how to direct our children. We don't know if the grades are in. We don't know if the grades are lost. We don't know where they are. We need to get a better idea with what's going on with Canvas. Communication, yes, I have heard several people talk about communication here. I will go ahead, had not planned on this. I've been here 6 years. I have always had a problem with administration. I've never had a direct answer to an email from administration. If I've had any kind of reply, it's been sent down the chain where somebody else is answering it. I have struggled highly lately to even contact the teachers. I've asked them recently, do I email you? Do I canvas you? Do I remind? I've tried multiple times over the past 4 weeks. Some answer after 2 weeks. I understand there's been a lot of sickness and vacations. But most of us on the board probably answer emails over vacation. Pick and shoot. We worked very, very hard to get into the school. What is it? Integrity, honor, community. And I just feel like we're losing the integrity with a lot of the stuff that's going on. We love the families. We've stayed here for the network and for the families. I think the kids that's been here the longest is parents that's really, really cared, really wanted their kids here. We had a lot of choices when we come here and got a lot of smart children here. Very smart children that has a lot to contribute to the community. if they have people to be passionate and care for them. I'm trying to only speak on the things that I know facts. A lot of people spoke on other things I don't know about for certain, it's hearsay. So trying to only work on that. Like I said, I've sent my comments in, but while I was here, I did want to speak because it is very passionate to a lot of people that didn't show up. That things are just not looking good for the students. All the other thing I'm thinking about was professionalism.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Howell. All right, Laura Stanfield. And Heidi Falls. That is everyone that has signed up to speak or sent in a public comment for the evening. All public comments have been reviewed and will be discussed among the board in our closed session.
All right, thanks again for everyone that attended tonight. I truly appreciate it. So we're gonna move on to our agenda. Next is our finances. So you do have July 2025 and the August 2025 in the board folder, so we'll have to vote on those. We'll vote separately, but any comments, we'll start with July, any comments for July. Okay. So, and then we'll move to August. Any questions on August? Okay, who would like to make a motion for July, budget? This Merle, sorry, second, Mr. Young, all in favor? Five and approved. August budget, tomorrow, a motion, second, Mr. Young, all in favor? The August, has been approved, both July and August, been approved. So next is our academics section, is our clinical report. Who'd like to go first? Answer more. Okay.
Hi guys, so just while we're on, I want to do some public recognitions to a couple of people. One being a big shout out of appreciation to Miss Brennan, who led the book fair, as well as for the families and the volunteers that help support and make that a successful year for our students here. And then Ms. Jones under in her leadership for the PBCI Parent Volunteer Committee, and how they continue to support staff. On the last Friday, October 3rd, they got together and provided snacks for our staff. So they just continue to reach out and ask, what can we do, what can we do? So we want to continue to make sure we keep that who you are, and we appreciate them. Great. That's been the top on that.
Academic, our assessment data, our K-12, our staff participated in professional development around code teaching. They were provided with greater insight as to how they could teach and provided for inclusive environment. And under our MTSS, and our tag talented and gifted, we put out slides to all the families and our weekly messages so that families would have dinner on those programs were. Ask questions.
All right, quick comment on Feeding Life. All of our students, grades 6 through 12, just went through SARS training. It's not military oriented. It's a Say Something Anonymous reporting system. So if your kids are downloading an app on their phone, that's what it's about. To keep each other safe, look out for their fellow classmates. What else to say? And it tells them to talk to a trusted adult at home or in the school. Let us know what's going on. Third grade just hosted their very first celebration for meeting iReady goals. Students got to visit the candy shop and participated in a variety of hands-on, super fun activities down in third grade with Miss Savage, Miss Ellis, Miss Law.
And for health and safety this month, our staff and their dependents are being offered a flu clinic on Thursday. All of us are hoping and praying that we stay, healthy during this flu and cold season. And then we have been conducting our monthly fire drills at both campuses. We have good success, quick exits, and so we are continuing to monitor the health and safety of our students.
Some of the upcoming events, we have trunk or treat on Friday, and then the band has a competition at Western Elements on Saturday. The 20th is our teacher work day for conferences, and then our senior portraits are the 31st.
That wraps up our report for this month.
Thank you. That's pretty. Y'all got any questions for the principal? Principal report? All right. So that moves us to old business. So we'll start with safety plan.
So we are still working on that. Just to kind of give you some feedback, if you guys look around, our Alamance County Sheriff's Department was here last week. They utilized our campus. Both campuses actually last week to do some training for safety. They had their officers run through drills for active shooter response. And so you'll see these little cards in and around our building. There's blue ones in here. And there's red and yellow throughout the building. And the kids are cute because they're like, what is this? What does that mean? You know? And so they're asking about it because it's not super obvious, but it's enough to kind of help the Alamance County Sheriff's Department, as well as like any type of law enforcement that comes in case there is an active shooter event. It gave them the opportunity to practice in a real school setting. Last week, where we had no staff here, no students here, it was really, really nice to be able to kind of collaborate with the community like that. So that kind of helps because school safety is super important. It's number one for us. And so that is another way that we are trying to, you know, increase the opportunity that we have in collaboration with the Sheriff's Department. So I think they have one more training left that they may try to use our campuses for. So I just wanted to say thank you to our teachers and our admin staff. Everybody was very flexible last week and did not come in the building like we asked them to because it wasn't real like simulation type activities. So that was a really good situation. So that's something that we're working on with our teachers. We'll be sharing that information with them. They just had a training on our last half day. I love our half days because we have opportunities to do professional development with our teachers. So that's thankful for the parents, and you know, when they come get their kids during those half day schedules, we really utilize those afternoons for those training sessions. So shouting out Lieutenant Brad Hall again for this. But on the 17th in September, he came and did a one-on-one like big mass group training session with our K through 12 staff. We all got in here in the cafeteria and we actually did some walkthroughs, and we actually took a look at some of the classrooms as in like areas for weakness, or, you know, if there were an active shooter, what would you do? Where are some areas where you need to improve? Where would you put your kids? Those are all things that are super important for our teachers to know how to do and be comfortable with. So he gave them a tour and they actually got to ask questions in big groups. And then we did the same thing at the high school. So next step for us is working on our individual safety teams at each campus. We got some other training coming up too with school safety and strength training, and there's just a lot of things that are kind of in the queue for next steps for school safety. So you're welcome.
That on all businesses are 2026 program.
Yes. Okay. So I put a letter in your board folder. So as we know, this has been a very tense, you know, a couple of years, a 2-year program as we're going through our charter renewal. A lot of our parents kind of chimed in and were some of our folks that sat in last January-ish, you know, in the spring, getting asked questions from the Office of Charter Schools and DPI about our school, about our systems, how all that stuff works. So I'm excited. We're waiting. So there's different levels of the renewals that you can get for different things. So the past renewal we had was a 10-year renewal. So that's your goal, right? So your goal is to get another 10-year renewal and your charter's renewed, and then you don't revisit that until another 10 years is up. Of course, there's compliance across the board every year in the different departments that are in the school, but I'm just excited. There are different levels. You know, there's 10 years or 7 years, things like that. But so right now, we have presented everything. So there's 3 components that they kind of look for. They look at your academic outcomes in comparison to the past 3 years with the local school system that you reside in. They compare that information to make sure that you are not doing worse than the county. Like that's something that they're looking at. Charter schools are kind of under a tighter microscope when it comes to stuff like that. So that was good. So academics is a piece of that. Financial audits, that's another big one. You can't have any findings, things like that in your financial audits for the past couple of years. So we passed on that as well. And then the other piece is if you have any compliance issues with the state, that's another kind of red flag they kind of put on you. And nothing was found in all three of these categories as to be an issue or something to slow us down. So very excited about that. So what we are waiting on right now is that they are recommending us for a potential 10-year renewal. Fingers crossed, everything still goes well, and they will get together and present our information so we won't have to go present. So remember, I don't know if you guys remember me telling you that there may have been a possibility that we would have to go to the state and present in January. We will not have to do that. They will present on our behalf. So they will take all the information that everybody has helped compile. They'll present it. And then what will happen is they'll review it in December. And fingers crossed, they will vote in January. We will get our charter renewal, and then we'll get an official letter around the end. I don't want to put a month on it. We'll get hopefully our approval letter in the spring of some time. So that's kind of what we're waiting on now. We're waiting on that vote to take place at the State Board of Education meeting in January. Some good news there.
But just pay spring 2026. So there's nothing, like you said, there's really action items, nothing outstanding on our end.
Not at this time, no, sir.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Or renewal or did you take them come in? All right, so move into governments. We'll just go through the committee updates.
No update from governments at this time.
Okay, finance. Okay. What about academic?
No updates at this time.
The long range planning, so only a couple of updates that I have. So our multi-purpose building at the high school. So we're still working on pricing and actually we're trying to finalize our updated draw. So I anticipate having those within the next couple of weeks. So we can try to finalize, move forward with the multi-purpose building. The second item is the batting cage at the high school. So my knowledge permit has been submitted. Obviously there's some wait with Almas County as far as the permitting, but things are moving forward with both of those projects. So great things to come there. What about our 25th anniversary party?
I know that we have some teachers that are willing to assist in that, so we're gonna move right along and bring it on in.
Okay. All right, so new business, we had a few items to cover. I will start with, this is a long one. Post-secondary transition compliance review, fair 11.
All right, so that has to do with EC stuff. So this is the one that we presented to you guys back at, there was a finding in 23-24 school year. There was so you have like a 90-day timeline when a referral starts to complete the referral. And there was one student that didn't get that, the result did not happen within that 90-day timeline. So that's a big no-no, like you can't miss that. So that happened in the year prior to our EC director, Mr. Squibb. So Mr. Squibb's been working on that. He started with us last year of finding the error. And then there were so many things that our EC department had to do in order to be in compliant with that. So I'm happy to report that we are 100% compliant with that from last year for the 24-25 school year. And so right now I'm just waiting on, he submitted everything. They'll typically send you kind of like what that letter looked like with their letterhead and stuff. We'll get like a final approval letter saying that we're compliant with that. So that's kind of what I'm waiting on right now.
Okay. Anybody got questions about that? That was just information that was not
Right.
all for about. Next item, which will be need to be voted on is another parent student handbook amendment.
And I'm sorry, it feels, it feels like it keeps coming with these amendments. So we've gotten several updates from legal counsel and things like that, of things that are changing within the state. But this one doesn't have to do with that. This one has to do with, so as we speak to Infinite Campus, so that school information system, we transitioned over from Power School there have been learning curves, there have been hiccups with that are not only Clover Garden School related, like that is a statewide issue with Infinite Campus. So there's been a lot of frustration in different areas because that houses everything. That's the hub, that's the brain, okay, that operates everything at school. So one of the issues that our registrar caught recently, so this summer when we were doing the handbook, typically a half day for students is 11:30, and that's what we've used from the beginning of time, it feels like. So, but unfortunately, because we have two bell calendars now, it sounds kind of funny, but like we've always operated, even when we had two campuses, we had one bell schedule, and it did funky things in the system, but we could kind of keep managing it because you didn't have an option to be one district to school, like one school, but have two bell schedules, like two, they call them calendars. Well, now you can. So we were so excited about this because now this campus runs on this one and that one runs about 15 minutes behind, right? Or, later. So, but that's also caused some hiccups because it calculates your instructional minutes. And so long story short, the registrar has found that the kids have to be here for 188 minutes in order for it to be considered a half day. So when you do all the number crunching, what that looks like specifically for the K-8 campus, it kind of goes down to minutes to 11:38, and then the high school was 11:53. And so what our proposal is for this is because in the handbook, it's one time, you have to be here by 11:30. That's what it currently says. What we would like to propose is we just adjust that to 12 o'clock. If we put noon on there, that the kids have to be here until noon, that will cover both campuses, no matter where your kids go. I think that'll be easier on our families to wait, what time is it? What time do you have to be there? If we say noon, we'll be covered by both campuses. And that will help the kids be considered here for a full day. Now, this is not something I like to do in the middle of a year by any means, but when I was talking to the registrar again today, it is causing issues with the reporting piece of it when it pulls our principal's monthly report. Okay, it's another thing that we have to do in Infinite Campus. When it pulls those, it's flagging all of these kids, and it's not calculating the right kids being here. Like the attendance is super wonky. And so what it's doing is it's saying, okay, you basically you're marked absent, if you leave before 12 o'clock. So it's already doing it. Our handbook just doesn't match what the system's doing because the system has those mandatory minute requirements for instructional time. Now, the half days, we had some question about that too. This doesn't affect the half days because lunch is not served on half days, so it's a full instructional day. You don't have to worry about calculating lunch times or transition times. And that's where we're running into some issues with the half day. So that was the one piece of this half day requirement is to adjust that. I've gotten some questions back just in discussion about, okay, well, what does that mean for everybody else that's been following the handbook, that's done the 11:30? I don't want to penalize anybody, for anything that they were following what was in our handbook. But we also have obligation to do what the state says in regards to instructional minutes to make sure we're in compliance with everything we're supposed to be in compliance with. So our registrar is pulling a list of anybody that this could have affected the first 9 weeks, and so that we make sure that their attendance is marked correctly, and where we can, try to work on some kind of override and put an explanation in there as to why we are marking this kid present, but they left at 11:30, not 12. So that's a big part of what we're working on right now. She's getting a list of that, but what I do think we need to do is go ahead and update our handbook to reflect that so that we share that, and that would go out to parents immediately. I would want them to know that as soon as possible. And then the other piece of that, we've never had this in our handbook before, or that I remember, but we've also kind of used that as well, as long as you're here by 11:30, that's not right either. Okay, there's minutes involved again. So technically, the way that breaks down, in order to cover us at both campuses, like I said, kids would have to be at school if they come to school late by 10:30 to be considered present for the day based on the minutes. And so again, kids that come in, you could come in after that. You got a doctor's note, you had an appointment. In the system, it'll still mark you as absent if you show up after 10:30. But what it will do is still calculate minutes. So like, I wouldn't turn kids away if they wanted to come to school because they've got a test 5th period and they came in after 10:30. You still come to school. Like, I'm not turning kids away, but we would have to mark it that way and explain that to parents because that could look super confusing. Like, my kids marked it absent, but they were at school today. So anyways, it's just another way for us to kind of learn and share that information with families so they understand kind of how it's calculating this stuff. So those are the two things that I would like to ask for, is that we adjust the time where a half day is considered 12 o'clock. Got to be here till 12. And I know that that will affect a lot of things like athletics and stuff like that. So we'll make sure we roll that out in communication. But also the piece about checking in, like you need to be here, just so that parents are aware, the kids have to be here by 10:30 in order to be considered present for the day.
Okay, anybody got any questions?
I just want clarity. So it's 188-ish minutes of instructional time.
Right. You have to
You
have that
have to-
daily.
Exclude transition, lunch, any of that.
That's exactly right.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
It's always been 188.
I don't know where that originated from or like where that started, but that's the DPI's guidance to our registrar. Cause we have actually now, because Infinite Campus and the issues that it's caused like across the state, now they actually made a person specific for charter schools. And so now we have like a go-to that we can talk to specifically. So that is the guidance directly from DPI in the way that it's supposed to be coded in the system, the way it's supposed to.
Who like make motion to approve the and public that day? Joel, second. Yeah, all in favor? The half day as approved. To the parents too. The last thing they had for new business, the issues and enrollment policy update.
And this is not on it either, but just to give you a heads up for next meeting, their legal just released a code of conduct update. And so we are now in the process of comparing what we currently have into what verbiage we don't have. So that will be on the agenda for next month, but I'm hoping that it's just minimal. But we want to make sure that everything that's supposed to be in there protects us as a school. We got to make sure that it's in there. So we'll be looking at that over the next month. Sure. Okay, so speaking for our registrar again, so this is, and I put these notes in there too, just don't mind my scribble, but, this is, I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago when we changed our enrollment, like priorities and things like that. So this is kind of along the same notion. We're not adding any more priorities to our lottery or anything like that, but we're cleaning it up a little bit. So some of this stuff is super minimal. But like, for example, our lottery now runs for like 3 months. If it starts in January and it doesn't, end till March. So 2 months solid, but you don't have to do that. So some of these things are a little bit like things that were like kind of nuances that like we can actually update and do differently now. So, so these are just some of the subtle things. If you see on that first page, we just want to adjust our lottery to run just a month. Hopefully, like I said, we'll be able to retain our kids. We don't want to hopefully have to pull in a lot of children. And so your lottery is only based on the spaces that you have available. So those are the ones that we know seniors are leaving. Our families getting the tent form. They say, hey, we're moving. We're not coming back. Like those are the ones we know about. That doesn't help us in regards to like, we don't know over the summertime, unless people communicate with us if they're not returning or not. But the lottery is based on the known seats that will be available. And for us, we know the senior class, we will fill, those seats coming into kindergarten for the next year. And then you got some onesie twosies throughout K-11 in regards to, if you're going to be filling seats or you lose kids in the middle of the year. But this is plenty long enough, a month. You don't really necessarily have to keep it longer than that. So we would like to kind of adjust that. So those are just some new dates. This is just some verbiage updates that shouldn't be in this anyways. We don't do paper applications anymore for lotteries. Like it's straight electronic. And so even if parents don't have access, we allow them to come to school and complete an online application. So everything goes through that now. Paper apps were a long time ago when we used to use the fishbowl, and pull names out. So we don't even have that anymore. And so we updated this a little bit because there's certain things that you can ask for in lottery applications. And then there's certain things that you have to wait until the actual enrollment packet to ask for things. So like identifying information, like if they have really anything other than their name, I feel like, and their birth date, you really can't ask for on lottery information. And so we've been doing that correctly. I just wanted to make sure that we kind of clarified it there because some of this stuff is asked for in the actual packet. So again, page 2, Nothing really different on there except for the bottom. Intent forms, we're just gonna make sure those go out in January, not February. A lot of times we send those with the report cards. And then on page 3, we had to update some of the verbiage here because this one that has the siblings of students who have completed the highest level, we don't offer that. That's not one of our priorities. These other ones are the priorities that we offer for our lottery. And we do not have a weighted lottery. You know, that's not something that we have. And then multiple births, that's still general statute. And then this is just some better verbiage that would help explain the enrollment policy in general, especially for like enrolled siblings. You know, they talk about like a separate sibling lottery, things like that. The way this system works, you prioritize those kids. So, you know, they're still prioritizing the lottery, but you don't have to run like 2 separate lotteries. Those siblings of students that are current are already prioritized. And probably just the biggest update, it's not really big, but we wanted to fix it because as you've heard, I'm sure this year, like we were still enrolling kids in September, like September 29th, like it's crazy. So it's, you know, we're almost done with 9 weeks of school by then. So, what we would like to do is what halts that a little bit is one, not knowing that kids aren't coming back. Okay. So we can't kick them out of their seat. You know, we have to anticipate they're going to be there. So if they're not there and they don't show up, then we have to go into this whole process in regards to, you know, putting the seat open. You got to wait for somebody to confirm it. You got to give them so many days to confirm it. Then they get so many more days to submit a packet. And then you're 2 weeks, you know, past and you still don't have a kid in there. So it pushes it down the road where these kids are enrolling and it's, you know, a month into school. So what we would like to do is update our days, and we've done this before, so in a couple of years ago, but we would like to shorten it just a little bit more. So if you see this, so under enrollment, it says students admitted lottery, like, so if they're admitted from when we run it in February up until April 30th, they'll have 7 calendar days. So they get a week, right? From the date of their acceptance email to accept or decline in lotteries. Okay, that's just a change from 10 days. So we kind of shortened it just a little bit. Did the same thing. So 10 days from the time of the acceptance email to submit enrollment paperwork. And then if the student is admitted after April 30th, then instead of having 7 days to accept or decline, now they're going to have 5 days and 7 days to enroll, turn the enrollment paperwork in. And then the last one is if they are admitted after July 1st, they'll have 2 days to accept or decline enrollment. And I know that feels super fast. We go to school in July, right? So we need the quicker turnaround on that. Like this is your spot. Either you want this spot or you don't. Like we've got to move on to the next. So that's why we tried to limit that to 2 days to say yes or no, you're coming. And then 3 days, in addition to that, of course, but 3 days to turn in your necessary paperwork. So again, that's a little bit different than what we had before. It kind of limits it a little bit, but it will help us get a tighter grip on who's coming and who's not and how long it takes to get this stuff back because you're sitting waiting. And then it starts all over again. If they decline or they accept, then you're waiting on the paperwork. I mean, you're looking at a week or so more that's already gone, and then you're starting the process all over again. So just business of the school wise, I think that would help eliminate some of the issues we're having with, you know, what feels like we're you know, throwing people in there because yes or no, like this kind of like clarifies it and gives them a very strict layout of this is how many days you have to do this. This is when the enrollment will end type things. So again, very, very minimal, but we really wanted to kind of shorten some of the required response times. And then that last page, again, mind my doodles. But those are all the things we ask. So those are all the things that you have a lot more flexibility with your enrollment packet. So not with the lottery application itself, you can't ask for things like, you know, do you have an IEP? Do you have 504? Do you have behavior plans? We can't ask for any of that kind of stuff on the initial like lottery. So these are all things we ask for. Once you're accepted, we need all of this stuff so that we can kind of create a schedule for you, put you in the right classes, etc. So these are just additional things. I just wanted this to match what we have in lotteries. So that's kind of where my little notes came from. And I believe that should be it. Yep. Oh, and that's on the back there on that last page. I'm going to make sure that I include on this document a kindergarten statute. We did have an issue this year with a student applying and enrolling, and they were not old enough to be here. So again, we're trying to put some fail safes back in place because that should have never happened. That never should have bypassed anything. You know, their birth date was late. And it's just detrimental to the family and you know, to the school and the classroom. But, you know, we don't enroll students as a state, that's a state law. We don't bring them in before they're 5. So that's where it says the kindergarten statute. I want to add that back to this.
Before I have the board questions, I've got one question.
Uh-huh.
Granted data or not, but so a new or requested cutoff date, February 6th. I'm curious, what kind of folks, okay, I guess applied between February 6th to March 6th?
You,
Wait list.
right, so you,
Wait, that's not.
Wait.
yeah, so you get your,
Numbers coming in, right? So
Right.
I'm just curious.
your majority comes in, right, at the very beginning, like that first day it opens, it is like boom, like it's everywhere. So your first couple of weeks are really historically very heavy with applications. Then from like February to March, truth and transparency, your wait list does continue to grow, but you're also getting students that maybe put in for another charter school, and then now we're the backup plan because their number whatever on the waiting list, and they want to put their application in. So a lot of times, sometimes that happens between that last month. But I do feel that the entire month running like that, as long as we are pushing advertisements and making sure that people know, hey, this is going to close in February, that gives us, like I said, more time to kind of get the kids confirmed and hey, you're going to come here next year. And I think the big thing, we've talked about this in the past, but like we lose kids because they get in, right? And then they don't hear from us again, right? Until it's the summertime. So we need to be more intentional about that stuff so that the kids that said they were coming end up coming. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so you are cutting off some of your time to submit your application, but the waiting list continues rolling. So that is open forever and ever until the end of the year. So like ours will close out at the end of December for like all the waiting lists. That stuff is like archived and then you start fresh again.
So you think within 1 month, we would have enough to fill all seats?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on historical waiting list data, yeah.
You're looking to run the lottery February 9th?
Yes.
Okay, instead of March. So it
Right.
would be a 1 month open
Mhm.
lottery submission.
Right.
Run on the 9th, and which would put us 6+ weeks ahead of every other charter school.
We'd be sick, well, of what we
Something,
had
yeah.
before, what we used before. But there is something in there that we're reading that you do have to give 30 days. Like you can't shorten it because you just run it 2 weeks, but no,
Right.
you keep it in there for at least a month and then you kind of go from there. But you know, people still have an opportunity to get in. They just don't have an opportunity to get chosen off the lottery, like it would be the
Right.
waiting list. But they would still have an opportunity to apply, like that doesn't close, but the lottery to run itself will.
With the new time limits, number one, I think it's great that we cut this decision process down,
Yeah.
especially after what's going on with this year.
Yeah.
I know my son was actually accepted to another place and I had 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That was
It's
it.
quick.
Yeah, it was accept on the phone or call me back at 8 a.m. and accept. Otherwise you're declined. So I'm all for that. Are these timeframes gonna be put on lotteries
Yes.
ASAP?
Yes, if
So
you guys
the
vote on that
parents would
today.
Be
Mhm.
notified, like if they
Mhm.
applied January 6th.
Yes.
They're gonna be notified, hey,
Mhm.
these are your time limits
Yep.
immediately.
So next place it'll go to is you guys vote on it and it's approved tonight, then it will go to the Office of Charter Schools. We have to submit a hard deadline by October and then they'll tell me if something's wrong with it or it doesn't work. And then that still gives us time to fix it before the lottery runs.
Mhm.
But if it's submitted and approved by them, then we're good to go.
Okay.
And that would be communicated anywhere our lottery information is, that's going to be where it is.
This is a bit of tangent, Mrs. Hurricane, but
Mhm.
are there any guidelines in the handbook as of now as to when we stop enrolling? 'Cause I know that has been a struggle. Hopefully this will help prevent that. But I know that, enrolling kids October 1st, and I might be exaggerating, pardon me.
You're close.
No, no,
September 29th was the last day.
And
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
so I guidelines on that.
So it's not in the handbook that way, but the way the funding works for the school is they just changed this over the past year or so. So now it's the best of 2 PMRs. So PMRs are principal monthly reports. So one runs the first 20 days. So when I get up there and I'm saying, please come to school on the first day of school, our funding as a school does not start until that bottom is in that seat. And so that's where it starts. And then it's crazy to look at this. The registrar gave me a massive Excel sheet, okay, that is a lot to look at, but there's some really cool information in there because you see what happens when we enroll a kid on day one and the funding that the school gets, and then how that slides throughout the rest of those 20 days. And so when you're coming up on the end of that 20-day, it's barely minimum that you get funding for those kids. So, everybody goes out there and they look at funding and they're like, oh, well, you get such and such per kid. If they're all here on day one, right? They don't understand that piece. So if they show up on day 6, then that is already cut off, and it breaks it down into like a percentage, and the formula is way over my head, but it does break it down. You don't get like full financial credit for that child. And then it restarts for PMR2. And what they're doing now is it's the best of 2. So like our PMR was fairly low for the first 20 days, the first month. Our second PMR, which just ended, which is why we were still enrolling kids, is because we didn't have quite the number yet. And so we had to keep filling until we got to the better number, which PMR2 was much better than the first one. But as a school, if we do little things like this and limit the amount of lag time, then I think that will help us move a little quicker. And our goal, truthfully, as an administrative team, is that we are done enrolling by at least the August break. Like, we would love to be done day one, but we know that that's really not the most feasible because, again, kids don't show up and you don't know where they're at, and you got to get the parents on the phone and you got to find out where they're going. And data managers don't work over the summer, so you're not getting any records requests until August, and we've been in school for a month. So ultimately, as a school, we would like to have our kids enrolled by August, because that's when that first PMR ended. Like, the first one ended August 22nd, which is right before our break. But unfortunately, we still weren't where we needed to be for enrollment wise.
So this will help work towards that goal.
Yes, it'll shorten that. And I hate to say lag time, but that's kind of what it is. Yeah.
I think you mentioned that. What was the minimum again? 30 days?
Yeah. So like you run 2, they run 2. Oh, for the lottery to run itself? Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Question.
Yep.
When you say 2 days, 3 days, you're talking about 48 business hours or 72 business hours, or are we including weekends? Like, if somebody gets in on a Friday, are they given, 48 hours to confirm, or are they now given 2 business hours, Monday and Tuesday?
Do you want me to engage? Yeah, so it would be 48 hours from the whenever they get the acceptance email.
Go up to respond.
Thank you. All right. So we'll move into a vote. We'd like to make a motion to the SHP enrollment also say Joel, second, tomorrow, all in favor? And that has been approved. Just communicate that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, okay. Yes, sir.
So that ends our new business. So we will now move into closed session. That's now that use 143, 18.11, A, 5, and 6. We'd like to make a motion to go into closed session. Tomorrow, beyond, all in favor? We now go into closed session at 7.